Hello everybody, and thank you for joining us today for story time. And today we are going to be reading Funny Bones. I'm excited. So are we all sitting comfortably? Let's get started with Funny Bones. This is how the story begins. On a dark, dark hill, there was a dark, dark town. In a dark, dark town, there was a dark, dark street. In a dark, dark street, there was a dark, dark house. In a dark, dark house, there was a dark, dark staircase. Down a dark, dark staircase, there was a dark, dark cellar. And in a dark, dark cellar, some skeletons lived. There was a big skeleton, and a little skeleton, and a skeleton dog. One night, the big skeleton sat up in bed. He scratched his skull. "What shall we do tonight?" he said. "Let's take the dog for a walk," said the little skeleton, "and frighten somebody." "Good idea," said the big skeleton. So the big skeleton and the little skeleton and the skeleton dog left the dark, dark cellar, climbed the dark, dark staircase, and stepped into the dark, dark street. They walked past the houses and the shops. They walked past the zoo and the police station. They went into the park. The big skeleton scratched his skull. "What shall we do now?" he said. "Let's play in the swings," said the little skeleton, "and throw a stick for the dog and frighten somebody." "Good idea," said the big skeleton. So the big skeleton and the little skeleton and the skeleton dog walked past the dark, dark pond, past the dark, dark tennis court, and up to the dark, dark swings. The big skeleton and the little skeleton played on the swings. They threw a stick for the dog. Suddenly, something happened. The dog skeleton chased the stick, tripped over a park bench, and bumped into a tree. My goodness. And ended up as a little pile of bones. "Look at that," said the big skeleton. "He's all come to pieces. What shall we do now?" "Let's put him back together," said the little skeleton. So the big skeleton and the little skeleton put the dog skeleton together again. They sang a song while they did it. The toe bone's connected to the foot bone's connected to the leg bone's connected to the hip bone's connected to the backbone. Then they got all mixed up. "Is that a toe bone?" the little skeleton said. "Where does this one go?" the big skeleton said. When they finished, the big skeleton said, "This dog looks a bit funny to me." "So he does," said the little skeleton. We've got his tail on the wrong way round and his head." "Oh," said the dog skeleton. At last, the dog was properly put back together again. The big skeleton and the little skeleton sang a song. These bones can bark again, can run around in the park again, can frighten people in the dark again." The big skeleton scratched his skull. "That reminds me," he said, "we forgot to frighten somebody." "Let's do it on the way home then," said the little skeleton. "Good idea," said the big skeleton. So the big skeleton and the little skeleton and the dog skeleton left the park, left the dark, dark swings, went out into the dark, dark town and tried to frighten somebody. The trouble was, there was nobody about. Everybody was in bed. Even the policemen in the police station were in bed. Even the animals in the zoo, of course, the skeleton animals, were awake. "Let's have a ride on the elephant skeleton," the little skeleton said. "Let's have a word with the parrot skeleton," the big skeleton scratched his skull. "Let's keep away from the crocodile skeleton," he said. When they were back in the street, and when they still could not find anyone to frighten, the big skeleton said, "What should we do now?" The little skeleton scratched his skull. "Let's frighten each other," he said. "That's better than nothing." "Good idea," the big skeleton said. So after that, the big skeleton frightened the little skeleton frightened the big skeleton and the little skeleton frightened the dog skeleton frightened them both. They hid around corners, they frightened each other. They climbed up lampposts, they frightened each other. They jumped out of dustbins, they frightened each other. All the way home. And that is how the story ends. On a dark, dark hill, there was a dark, dark town. In the dark, dark town, there was a dark, dark street. In the dark, dark street, there was a dark, dark house. In the dark, dark house, there was a dark, dark staircase. Down the dark, dark staircase, there was a dark, dark cellar. In the dark, dark cellar lived some skeletons. And they still live there now. The end. Thank you so much for joining us today. Bye.